Ladies and gentlemen, they're doing it. They're doing it, and it's so sad and pathetic that you have a bunch of imbeciles and petulant, I guess you could just say losers, on a political side that has yelled out and just, they've amplified the message that we should amplify the voices of people of color, and then when Kanye West runs for president, my God almighty, they descend upon him with the most vicious, with such venom and in the most vicious manner, with such vitriol, and there they go again. Democrats say one thing, do another. Climate change. Well, where's the legislation you're supposed to vote on? Because there was a resolution that passed the House, and then Mitch McConnell tried to vote on it as legislation in the Senate. And they're like, "Oh no, what are you talking about? This was an inspirational type of thing. We weren't serious." And they looked foolish then. Believe with Kavanaugh. Then Tara Reid came along and they said, don't believe with Biden. Oh my God, look what Trump said. And then you have Biden saying, you ain't black if you don't vote for him with Charlemagne. They don't have a value system. So now they're going after Kanye West. They are descending upon him because they know he's going to take swing states. If you just look at Nevada. Nevada's 6 electoral college votes. Minnesota's 10 electoral college votes. He could get hundreds of thousands of votes, or at least tens of thousands of votes in each state of the country. Kanye West he's one of the most famous people on the planet. People of all ages, people of all demographics, all people he's a billionaire and his wife's a billionaire because everyone watches his wife's show and everyone listens to his music. Not just one demographic, but here. Clinton outspent Trump 2-1. She had Gary Johnson, who took 4.5 million votes from Trump. 4.5 million votes. Now, this is huge. They made a big deal about Jill Stein because everything revolves around their electoral college chances or their chances to win an election. Minnesota, this is the New York Times. Clinton outspent Trump 2-1, and she had Gary Johnson. Nevada, New York Times. Hillary Clinton, 539,260 votes. Donald Trump, 512,058 votes. Gary Johnson, 37,384 votes. Okay. Trump only lost by what? 27,000 votes? He only lost by 27,000 votes, people. And Gary Johnson took 37,000 in Nevada. Okay, so Kanye is going to take a lot more than 37,000 votes in Nevada from Democrats. People are not going to... Okay, Trump supporters are voting for President Trump because he signed a deal in Afghanistan late February, early March to bring Americans home, all Americans home from the longest counterinsurgency conflict, longest war in American history. And that happened without any fanfare on the left. Nobody cared on the left. They only care what he says. They don't care what he does. That's actually very, very good. Trump supporters are voting for him to reverse Bush's foreign policy and President Obama's foreign policy that destroyed and obliterated a country in Libya. Okay. So that's worse, infinitely worse than anything Trump has ever done, and he's never done anything close to that. That NATO debacle that really just ruined the country, Democrats don't care about. But again, so President Trump signed a deal to bring home Americans and end our longest conflict in American history. Okay. President Trump signed the First Step Act. President Trump signed legislation regarding funding for historically black colleges and universities. President Trump was the first president ever to sign an executive order combating anti-Semitism on college campuses. President Trump was the first president ever to step foot in North Korea. President Trump presided over record low unemployment, record low black and Latino unemployment before the pandemic. Half of all the lives lost in the pandemic are in 5 Democratic-run states, 4 to 5. New York, New Jersey, Michigan, Illinois, and Pennsylvania are over half of all the lives lost in cases. Okay, I would love for the wonderful immunologists who side with Democrats to explain why over half of all the lives lost are in Democratic-run states, but 4 to 5 of them. Used to be only 3. But so you look at this election. People are voting for Trump for something. They're not voting for him because they can't stand Biden. Biden ain't going to be nominee. That's the biggest charade of all time. I will have made the biggest political call of all time, but I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, that it looks like Kanye West is going to run. He's going to run. He's going to take millions of votes. Gary Johnson, who has zero charisma and ran the Libertarian Party into the ground, along with, Bill Weld. They took 4.5, almost 4.5 million votes from President Trump. Almost 4.5 million votes. You think Kanye could get more than 4.5 million votes? He comes up with a platform that is inspirational, idealistic, whatever platform he comes up with. It's Democratic voters who are going to say, gosh, I don't like Trump, but Kanye West is talking about similar things, even though Kanye West supports President Trump, a Second Amendment advocate. I believe he supports the Second Amendment. Does not have left-leaning, a viewpoint on the world. Neither does Elon Musk, who Elon Musk stated, I support you 100% on Twitter. But you think that he's going to, if you're voting for Biden or Clinton, I should say, because it's going to be Hillary Clinton. But if you're voting Democrat simply because you don't like Trump, well, there's somebody you like now. It's Kanye West. So people who are voting Trump are voting for something. They're voting for a reversal of U.S. foreign policy. They're voting for corrupt intelligence chiefs, for the Durham probe and William Barr and John Durham's probe, uncovering exactly what happened, setting up and framing President Trump. So you have a situation, ladies and gentlemen, where this election, there are 2 types of voters. One's a Democratic voter, one's a Trump supporter, or a person who's voting for Trump. If you have a third party, because Kanye West is going to run as independent, so he takes votes away. Clinton barely won Nevada. She outspent Trump 2-1, and she only won by around 27,000 votes. Then you have Minnesota. Minnesota, right here. Let's see. Minnesota. Gary Johnson got 112,000 votes. Clinton only won by 44,000 votes. And you had a guy named Evan McMullen. So he took votes away also. You don't have, and then you include Kanye West, who would take Democratic Party votes. And there you go. And they know this too. They're descending upon him on Twitter, and they're going to, Lord knows, God bless Kanye West. Because they're going to try to hurt him and disparage him and demean him and mock him and denigrate him any way they can. And in doing so, they're going to harm themselves. The Democrats are funny. They think that they could marginalize and silence and intimidate and embarrass people. But the more venom they spew, the more their true colors, who they really are, come out. They don't care about, look how they treated Tara Reid. Look how they're treating Kanye West. Look what happened with the climate change legislation, which it was just a resolution. Look what happened with Medicare for All. Where are the pundits talking about Medicare for All now? Oh, that's right. Because Democrats utilize that to pretend that they had a viable political party. They don't have it's a political machine. Democrats do not have a viable political party. It's a machine. The machine, it's like it's a Tammany Hall, Gilded Age Tammany Hall machine, just like when Boss Tweed and party bosses were running the Democratic Party in New York. And so the Clintons are at the top of this machine. Madam Secretary's going to be nominee. They're not going to have, you think they're going to have a virtual convention with Biden, who like 2 people are on his live streams? And his comments are off half the time, which is hilarious. So I wrote in the Huffington Post, Hillary Clinton 2020 is a reality. Get ready for 8 years of Trump. That's below in the pinned comment. And in the Times of Israel, Hillary Clinton, not Biden, will be nominee. And subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel. Right now I have a great segment up on there. But they're doing it. I mean, you look at on Twitter, oh, he said this. They take his quotes out of context. They're trying to denigrate him and mock him and insult him. And it's like, well, there goes listening to the voices of people of color or elevating or amplifying voices. What Democrats really meant is they want to elevate only the voices that suit their political purposes under the guise of, helping the lives of people of color. That's all they care about. I mean, the charade is, look, if you're watching this and you think, well, I don't like Trump, or I think that Trump is racist. Well, if Trump's racist, what's Biden? What's the Democratic Party? Because Trump actually did sign the First Step Act. Biden helped write the crime bill. And Biden has said really horrible things over the years. And he just said a horrible thing with the Charlemagne interview. Like a very atrocious thing with the Charlemagne interview. So, you look, ladies and gentlemen, Nevada, 6 electoral college votes. Minnesota, Clinton only won by 44,000 votes. Gary Johnson took 112,000 from Trump. Okay, Michigan, Trump won, obviously, but he won by a razor-thin margin by 77,000 votes in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Do you want to know how many votes Gary Johnson got in Michigan? 172,000 votes. Jill Stein only got 50,000 votes. Okay? So it was no contest. Without Gary Johnson, President Trump easily wins the popular vote. Do you know that Democrats, that political party, is pretty much irrelevant? It won't be completely obliterated, but it's going to be irrelevant. If they don't win the only thing they have is the popular vote that they could fall back on. This way they can say we have to do away with the Electoral College and all this stuff. That's the only thing they have. If they don't even get that, if they lose the election after 4 years of yelling at the top of their lungs how Trump is this and Trump is that and Trump is horrible, and they don't get the popular vote, because that Kanye West is going to take the popular vote away from Democrats. I would say almost certainly he'll take swing states away. But he's big enough and powerful enough and independent of thought enough to say, okay, I'm going to run, and he needs to run as a Republican, because the Democrats will never allow anyone who doesn't think exactly like them on foreign policy to run for president or to actually get close to the presidency. That's why Bernie Sanders was utilized as a way to get younger voters. We can go on, I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. The link is below. And I was the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters. The link is below. But, ladies and gentlemen, I thought Bernie Sanders would be what President Trump is, somebody who's completely independent, who goes up against very corrupt intelligence chiefs, who reverses U.S. foreign policy, and who presides over record low unemployment, and who signs the First Step Act. And I never thought Bernie would do this, but President Trump signs an executive order combating anti-Semitism, which is rampant on college campuses. But they say that Clinton lost by 77,000 votes, and it was really horrible in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Well, you forgot the hundreds of thousands of votes that Gary Johnson took And I can't believe this, too. It's like nobody talks about that. There's nobody talking about the 4.5 million, almost 4.5 million people that voted for the Libertarian Party, which will not be a factor this election. They'll be a tiny factor, but they will not be 4.5 million voters. And you look, every statue that's torn down, every building that's set ablaze, every $1.4 billion in property damage, 10,000 arrests throughout the country, and you have people losing their lives. This does not help the Democratic Party. People say, oh, well, there's a reckoning. Well, okay. Minneapolis, George Floyd was murdered in Minneapolis. Wasn't murdered he was in Minneapolis, and Eric Garner was murdered in New York City. What did the Democrats do in those locations to prevent those atrocities from taking place? Nothing. So give me your thoughts below. You have a very interesting dynamic at play. Democrats are now twisted into a pretzel, into this mental and philosophical and, this bizarre, like their charade is up because now they have a black man running for president, but they don't want to amplify his voice because he's going to help President Trump. So the moral of the story is, doesn't matter who you are, Democrats will pretend to be on your side, but then if it hurts them politically, you better believe they're going to come after you politically and with public relations and with media and everything they can to just hurt you in terms of a public relations sense, denigrate you, mock you, silence you, marginalize you. They only care about winning. That's it. And they pretend to care about these lofty ideals. Same with Tara Reid. They went after Tara Reid. Isn't that interesting? They went after Tara Reid. They're going after Kanye West, and nobody's talking about Medicare for all. So there you go, Democratic Party. Trump's going to win this election. Whether Kanye West runs or not, he's going to win this election. And I've been saying that for 4 years. It's going to be against Hillary Clinton. It won't be against Biden. People are just petrified, so she's waiting until the last second. I don't know when, but that's going to happen too. That'll be the biggest political call of all time. Give me your thoughts below. They spent 4 years, and nobody can explain why they're voting Democrat other than Trump is horrible. In their minds. Trump's a great president, but in their minds, Biden, in their minds, a man who looks and acts and communicates like an exhumed body, a man who resembles a cadaver that got Botox and plastic surgery, a man who constantly meanders into never land and fantasy world when he speaks, a man who is one fry short of a Happy Meal, of course I'm speaking of the wonderful former vice president, is infinitely better than Trump because he's not Trump. That's the only reason. Now they have somebody, so people are going to vote for Trump. People are going to vote for Kanye West. No one's voting for Biden. He doesn't have a base. People will vote for Hillary Clinton. So she won't get enough votes, but people will vote for her. And also, they outspent Trump 2-1. They're not going to outspend Trump 2-1 now, and you don't have Gary Johnson. So what on earth are Democrats going to do to win the election? And then they won't win the election with the Electoral College, but I don't even think they'll win the popular vote. Give me your thoughts below. Subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel right now. That's below in the pinned comment. Thank you. Oh, and if you want to support my voice long-term to my Patreons, thank you so very, very much. Thank you. Your support helps me tremendously. Going into the home stretch right now with November 3rd, your support on Patreon helps me keep doing what I'm doing, and I want to thank you to my new Patreon members. That's below in the pinned comment and description. Thank you.